So the championship team of the season was released nearly 2 weeks ago, and I've not given my opinions on it yet. So that is what we're going to do today. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Alexis. Today I'm going to be looking at the championship team of the season that was officially given out. I'll be reviewing all the championship awards, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at each position and I'm going to talk about my pros and cons with the decisions that they made, because there is some pros and there is some cons to talk about their choices as well. But most importantly, I want to see your guys' team of the seasons in the comments down below, because there's no doubt there's going to be so many differing opinions and I'm going to really enjoy reading all of them. By the way, guys, tonight it is my watch along for Bournemouth Nottingham Forest at 6:30, so make sure you be there. The biggest game of the championship season. I can hardly contain my excitement. It's going to be a crack. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It just raise you up the channel. Let's aim for 20 likes. It'd be terrifically appreciative. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. It does really help the channel. Please share this channel as well to as many people as you can. That really helps. And if you actually want to send a donation, you can do that now. The super thanks feature is now featured on this channel. Of course, you don't have to do that, but it would be amazing for this channel. All funds do go for funding of the channel, tickets and equipment. But without any further ado, let's start talking about my views of this year's team of the season. So the team of the season is right here, and they've gone with a 3-4-1-2 formation, which I would understand why they've gone for that formation, for the fact we see many teams these days go with 3/5 at the back from time to time. But there is one big problem with that, and it's going to be a big talking point near the end of the video, but we barely have any number 10s, and number 10s and strikers, you know, are like the two really biggest positions and highest performing positions that we've had in the season. So a lot of talent has been missed out in this team, but I will talk about from every position, starting from goalkeeper, and I'll go through my views. So the goalkeeper they've selected is Nichols of Huddersfield Town, and would he be my goalkeeper? Yes, he would. If I was making the team this season, he would be my number one choice. I've been really impressed with Nichols. Just even thinking that last season he was barely recognised with MK Dons, and Huddersfield had a lot of faith of bringing him in, and he was very quickly into the number one goalkeeper, because he wasn't made number one goalkeeper for Huddersfield straight away. He had to fight for his place. Since then, he's managed to stick to the number one goalkeeper ever since. So to have that determination already is, you know, over, above and beyond for what you need in the player of the season. He's placed the second most shots in the league and made the second best save rate percentage as well. So stats wise, he's been very consistent throughout the season. I think shout-outs and other substitute goalkeepers I would include Mark Travers. I think some of the saves he's made this season have been beyond a joke and have really kept Bournemouth into some really key games, and Bournemouth I think definitely could have had a really big collapse had he not turned up for some of those games. Wes Fotheringham for Sheffield United I think deserves a shout out. I think since he's come in and the improvement that Sheffield United have had in their back line since he's commanded their box, and the penalty saves that he's made as well, has proven very crucial to Sheffield United's position in the table as well. So now for the back three. So they've gone for 3 centre backs, and they have picked Joe Worrell as the left-sided centre-back, which I can kind of understand why he's been given it, but personally, I would edge Scott McKenna over Joe Worrell any day of the week, in my opinion. I think McKenna, not only has he, I think, been more involved with goal contributions, but I do remember more pivotal moments with Scott McKenna in these games as well, and more recently as well, just with the energy, the concentration levels. I personally see a more rounded defender in Scott McKenna than Joe Worrell for me. And the other one for Fulham is Tosin Adarabayoyo. I think that's the best I've ever said his name, actually. I actually would keep that, actually. I actually don't mind Tosin Adarabayoyo being in the team. I think Tim Ream is one that, you know, does he go in over Adarabayoyo? But I actually think I prefer Tosin, actually, in Fulham's back line for what I've seen, just not only with goal contributions but with performances. I think both have got a bad performance in them somewhere deep within, but I think the one has been more consistent in my personal opinion at least, has been Tosin Adarabioyo. But feel free to disagree with me if you do not agree with that. And then for the other centre-back, they have gone for Lloyd Kelly, which I have got a bit of a gripe with, because I do think at the start of the season when Bournemouth went on that unbeaten run, he was unbelievable. One of the highest, potential players in terms of the defence, and was playing a really big part to that. But I think we've seen this for a lot of the players this season. They start well and fade away, and then we see emerging players, really take the season by storm in the second half of the season. And I really want this team to consistently perform on the pitch and not have one good game and then one poor game. And I think Lloyd Kelly could have that within him. Personally, if we're going for consistency this season, I've got two choices here. Either Cal Naismith or Levi Colwill as the other centre-back. In the end, I might going to have a very short bit of Chelsea bias there, but I'm going to throw Levi Colwill in that final centre-back position for how young he is and for how professional he's actually been in that back line all season, plus the goal contributions he's added. And I'm not saying Naismith doesn't have a goal contribution in him either. I think both have equally done very, very well contributing to the goals. But I think after seeing Luton get ripped to shreds at the back with Naismith leading the line and to a defence that conceded 7, it's going to be more difficult for me to make a convincing argument for Naismith to be in that starting 11. So I'm going to keep Colwill in that position, but I'm still going to include Naismith in my bench. I think other centre-backs that deserve credit, Basham for Sheffield United, I think has been relatively good this season. Even Lenihan for Blackburn Rovers, I actually think deserves a bit of a shout-out as well. I'm always going to shout out Paddy McNair for Middlesbrough as well. Just for the amount of positions he can play on the pitch, he can be a very great player on this team. And I'm even going to throw a team from a relegated team into this team as well, and that is Curtis Davies. Because I actually think the role that he's put into this Derby side, Derby would have been washed, within a good number of games ago. But the amount of clearances, blocks, and even goals he's contributed as a centre-back, he's really been one of the biggest factors of keeping Derby afloat for so long. So I think Davies deserves that recognition, and he'll be on my bench for the centre-backs. But he's not going to quite start it because I just think Levi Colwill's had a better season. So for the left-back, they've gone for Antoni Robinson. Now, I did see him last night, and I was impressed with Antoni Robinson. But is he the best option? I don't know, to be honest. I think Antoni Robinson would definitely be on my bench in this team, but I think for what I've seen, you've got to put Harry Toffolo into that left back position. The goals he's scored and just the involvement that he's had. I've seen Huddersfield, play live twice this season. How good he was against Barnsley was absolutely incredible. I've not seen him put one bad cross into the box. And not only that, the blistering pace that he runs with as well really gives back lines a really real hard time. And the goals and the contributions that he's put into this Huddersfield team, I think, are second to none. He deserves to be in this team. I think other left backs you could throw into the bench, maybe Jordan Zamoira. He's had a brilliant start. I think faded a little bit, but he did have an injury, so I won't be too hard in there. Josh Tymon for Stoke, I think, deserves a small shout out there as well. I think he scored actually one of the best team goals all season. I still remember that team goal that Stoke scored against Nottingham Forest quite vividly. It was one of the best goals I've seen. And I think Scott Malone for Millwall barely gets talked about either, but I do think he does deserve a small shout out too. Now for the right back, they've gone for Jed Spence, and for me, I would stick with that. I think the obvious comparison, is it Jed Spence or Isaiah Jones? I think both have been so important with their teams this season. I know there's not been many goal contributions for Spence compared to Jones, but what Spence has done, especially from being a defensive unit, Forest having the best defence in the league, and just the link-up play that he can pull off is incredible. Jones, obviously, one of his biggest assets is, being very, very pacey, winning a lot of penalties, crosses into the box with the assists and the goals that he scored. So undoubtedly both would be very crucial, but I think Spence for the link-up play alone, I think I would put in. But Jones would definitely be my second choice right back on the bench. I think other shout-outs go for James Bree. I think he's been really good as a right back for Luton this season. And even Sorba Thomas as a right wing back. He's played in an abundance of positions, Sorba Thomas, but his numbers this season have been ridiculous. So I think Sorba Thomas also deserves a small shout-out in this team as well. So now the midfield 2 is very interesting. They've gone for Philip Billing and Ryan Yates. I'm going to talk about Ryan Yates first. And personally, I would actually have James Garner over Ryan Yates. I think there's definitely a debate thinking, okay, which one is definitely going to be the better holding midfield. And personally, I think both have had a really important role. But for me, James Garner offers something a little bit more. I think Ryan Yates has done very well near the end of the season. But if we're talking about the whole season, I think James Garner has been my personal favourite in that midfield position for Forest for me. But you would definitely, you know, acknowledge how well Yates has been, especially near the end of the season. But for consistency wise, I would have Garner in over Yates. And the other midfielder position, so they've gone for Philip Billing, which I think has been alright, but I definitely don't think he's been as good as the first half of the season. I think for me, I'd put Lewis O'Brien in. Lewis O'Brien with James Garner. I mean, just listen to that midfield double. You know, you're really not going to get anywhere past any of these players. They both offer so much, not only defensively, but going forward. They have an abundance of quality, don't they? Abundance of energy. And I think they would be an unstoppable midfield duo. But other midfielders who I think definitely deserve a shout out. Gustavo Hamer, I think for Coventry, deserves a shout out. I actually got to say 2 of Middlesbrough's midfielders, Johnny Howson and Matt Crooks, I think both deserve a bit of credit as well. But the big omission for me, which I'm really regretting about, is John Swift. I definitely think the first 20 games of the season, he would have been the best midfielder in the Championship, without a doubt. Unfortunately, he was injured, and since then, he's not really reproduced the same numbers. He's got the second most assists, and, you know, he only really played the season properly for about 20 games. So, unbelievable that he's been consistent up to now, but unfortunately, had he carried that form over, I think I would have given him the benefit of the doubt, but I can't have him in, unfortunately. But he'll most definitely be on the bench because what he can offer on this day is second to none. Now to the number 10 problem. Who do we have in as our number 10? So they've gone for Harry Wilson, which I understand. Watching him last night, he's been unbelievable. 19 assists this season that Harry Wilson has had. His best goal contributing season and that he's ever done, you know, in the Championship. So he definitely deserves a shout out there. But we're missing out players like Morgan Gibbs-White, who really deserves it. I think maybe Chris Willock / Elias Chair. I can't really separate them because it kind of alternates between them. The big one for me is Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson is an obvious omission in this team. He's got Young Player of the Year, which I think he does deserve it, but he really should go in. You know, if I could, maybe what I would do is have 2 centre-backs. I'll put either one of Johnson or Gibbs-White in there. And I don't know, should I keep Wilson? But Wilson, with the most assists this season, you feel like you have to keep. So, I don't know. But that's a big problem, really. You know, for the fact we're lacking the number 10, really, only having one, you know. Where's the creativity going to come from? We're going to have to rely on our holding midfielders to provide the quality for Wilson if he doesn't turn up. But for being as reliable as Wilson is, then I don't think we have to have too many worries for that. And then for our strikers, I mean, I don't think we should have any complaints here. They've gone for Mitrovic and Dominic Solanke. I mean, both of them combined have scored 72 goals this season, which is a joke. Mitrovic with 43 goals in 43 appearances, which is a goal a game, and that is so rare these days to overcome that. And I remember in my stream saying that Mitrovic really over-celebrated the second goal when he took his shirt off forever, but little did I know that he actually overtook the most amount of goals scored by a single player in second division history. Obviously, he overtook Antoni, who took the championship record, but Guy Whittingham, who had 42 goals, he was the original second tier record, and Mitrovic has now beaten that. So fair play to the guy, and I'm really excited to see how he thrives in the Premier League as well. I think he will be a better striker with Marco Silva's system there. I definitely think the weakness for Fulham going up can be their defence, but if you give Mitrovic enough opportunities after having the season that he's had, you know, surely he can score more than 5 goals. You know, I think a good target for him, let's see if he can get to 10 goals. If he can get to 10 goals, that'll be a great season. Solanke as well, I think this has been one of the very few times where he's had a very consistent season. A lot of the time that he would actually either be out the team or he would have an injury that plagues his season. But we've seen here that when he has a consistent season, he can be really good. You know, 29 goals is actually nearly equaling the amount that Antoni scored last year, which he was the previous championship record holder. So he definitely has had a really good season as well. But shout-outs definitely go to Andre Vyman. 22 goals at his age is unreal. He definitely deserves to be on my bench at least. I think Joel Pirro for Swansea has actually been one of the more consistent ones, actually. He's definitely done very well, 22 goals as well, and especially in the second half of the season, he's really come to his own. And I think Ben Brereton Diaz would have gone in had he not faded away with his numbers drying up in the second half of the season. And for manager of the season, for me, I would have to give it to Steve Cooper. I know they've given it to Nathan Jones, and with good reason, with the budget that Luton have to work with, and for that they are almost confirmed a top 6 place. I know there'll be a bit of pressure on Luton to get to the top 6 now, and they've had an abundance amount of injuries and they've done well to stay in that position. But I think the turnaround that Steve Cooper has brought to Nottingham Forest, I think had he gone to the start of the season, I could have seen Nottingham Forest as champions over Fulham. And Fulham, obviously, we give them a lot of praise, being one of the most incredible teams we've ever seen. But Nottingham Forest and Steve Cooper, I think Steve Cooper definitely deserves manager of the year. But I think other shout-outs would involve Marco Silva for Fulham. More shout-outs would include Carlos Corberán for Huddersfield as well, getting them into the position that they're in. But there's a lot of shout-outs you could include, but for me, I would have to give to Steve Cooper. So that is my talks of the Championship team of the season. So out of the current team, of the amount of players that I would keep Nichols, I would keep Adara Bayoyo, I would keep Spence, and I think I'll keep Wilson, Solanke and Mitrovic. So that's 6 of the 11 players that I'll keep, but tweak the formation a little bit, get Brennan Johnson or Gibbs White in to, partner Wilson there, and maybe take one of my defenders out. Maybe someone like Colwill maybe could be taken out, maybe. But that's pretty much my view and my team of the season views. Let me know, guys, what you thought about that in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But that wraps it up for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please give the video a like. If just to help the channel, please do hit the subscribe button. It really helps, especially if you want to see some more Championship content. So please make sure you do hit subscribe so you guys can always check out my latest content. And please share this channel to as many people as you can. All of that helps too. But that'll be that. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for joining me in this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.